Hi, I'm Kevin. I tried this a while ago, but the wind was howling and I had a bit of a rubbish mic, so it was appalling. I'll put a clip in and you can see what I mean. I don't think the mic's going to do so well with this, because it's pointing in the opposite direction. I can't turn it around. Either way, this is our 101. It's a 1978 ex-ambulance from the army that we picked up, gosh, it must be a couple of years ago now. I was suggested to do this by my wife, who said that I keep looking for info and can't find it. Clearly I'm not an engineer. This was full of a beard, but with the current COVID-19 thing at work, I need a clean face to fit a mask on. It is what it is. Also why the hair's gone missing. So I'll just show you things that I found out that did and didn't work, save you trying to find it out for yourself maybe. So to those of you interested, this is Osmo Action with a Movo mic, which hopefully is a lot better than the one we've had before. So the paint job doesn't look too bad. I did a spray outside, however when you get up close you realise it's a bit crappy. As soon as I started clearing off the paint properly to paint it, it leaked more and more, so I gave up and did what the army did, which was paint straight over the top of what's left. So first of all, these are truck light headlights, LEDs. They're much brighter than the halogen things that were in there before. I've still got a bit of an issue with it losing some of its voltage. There's only about 10.5 volts getting to them. The earth's good, so I need to trace the power lead back to see if it's partially earthing somewhere. Either way, they're bright enough, but they could do with being better. That is a Rigid Industries light bar. It's not actually road legal, so it's not on the standard switchgear. Really bright, basically turns the sun on. Great for country lanes and fields and so on. These are also Rigid Industries spotlights. I had to cut the old ones off because they were so corroded on. These are really easy to fit, really bright, and are road legal, so I switched those on for the time being whilst I haven't sorted out the headlights properly. Hammerite on the bumpers, and that's an air horn. Cheapy job off eBay. There was one in that did the diddly thing, which was just hideous. So I swapped over the motor, and they work pretty good. The lights are also LED bulbs, which are much brighter, flash better, and drain less current, and particularly with the old wiring, rather than having to rewire the whole thing, I was trying to put as least current as possible through. I'll show you the resistor you need to get the flash unit to work properly a bit later. Security, we all know Land Rover locks are pants. This is a Fiamma. You can get a locking one, but I wanted to be able to get out from the inside if necessary. Now this pushes out a really solid bar. It's mounted to a really strong bit of the door, and I had some of this aluminium section that actually just coincidentally was exactly the right width to work properly, and I've done the same thing on the other side. You can just see it just there. That's one of the retaining clips from the back door. It was an easier way of keeping it as authentic as possible whilst getting the door held in place, and that's off the back of it, and I'll show you why in a minute. One of the other locks, Milenko, I looked at loads of the Trumas and I could just see videos of them just getting smashed and pulled apart really easily, and a lot of the other ones didn't have any way of opening from the inside, so you'd have to open the window, reach down, lock it, and then have to do that if ever you had to get out in a hurry in the middle of the night. So this one is just a standard camper van lock. I'm sure you find those anywhere. It looks a little untidy at the moment, but it will be made better. So the advantage of this is that you can open and shut it from the inside, and actually also just trap it so that it stays open. So that's why I have a spare clip and retaining clip from around the side, because this thing's on the back. It won't go much further round than roughly 90 degrees, I think. Again, one of these locks on the back, and an adjustment to be able to get to it. Make sure I don't get Jan's car. The idea was that the bed's going to go here, sideways, so it's lie in bed and be able to look out the door if a good day and we've got a good sight. So that's as far around as it will go. Now the whole idea of this was to try and do it in such a way that if in the future someone had a major tizzy fit and wanted to try and put it back to original, it would be possible. So this back section that I haven't quite got a panel to is just an extension on the back. It's all welded on, and the frame's been made big enough and strong enough to take the wheel, etc. But you can cut the doors off, cut the back off, and actually then put it all back in. I've still got the back step and the hole where the escape hatch is, or was, and I've still got it. You can just take that bar out and put the escape hatch back in, but at the moment I'm making it for me to use it. That's why when you look at it from the outside, it just looks too long. I took some advice about what was the angle at the back, and reckoned about 40 degrees, which is what that is, and that would then mean that okay, it wouldn't do extreme off-road, but it should not catch if you're doing sort of moderate stuff, and that's the plan. So the water heater goes behind the passenger seat where the old petrol air heater used to go. That struck me as being quite scary, having its own fuel pump and stuff. I didn't like the idea of keeping that, so that went. This has just had plastic primer on it and then painted in the same colour as this. It looked pretty reasonable. It was a hell of a fiddle getting that in, and I'll show you that in a bit, but it fit. The other thing is the tinted glass that used to be in the back I took out and moved to here in the opposite side, and used the spares, and also managed to get another one from a company by its measurements to be able to make it light at the back. So of course the batteries are behind here. This is campsite power connection. Took some time figuring out where the hell to put that. I was initially going to put it here, but then obviously with it open you wouldn't be able to open the door and latch it back, so I had to go and come up with a plan B. So basically this is where the battery box used to be, and considering it only held a couple of batteries, it was an enormous box for just the small batteries that are in it. It was the only way of getting to take the air compressor cylinder out, which is where I'm going to put an LPG tank for the cooker and heater and all the rest of it. So I had to move the batteries before I could take the battery box off, before I could get the tank out, because you can't get to those nuts with the thing in the way. There's an access port for where things used to go, and I'm going to use that to take the gas off inside. Other than that, although it's a squeeze, the batteries do fit, and then I'll be able to put maybe the battery box back or another box there just as a storage. The filler for the LPG I'm hoping to bring up and put here. This is where the water tanks are going to go. I haven't decided, but probably they're going to be refillable wheeled ones like you would have in a caravan, as I think that that's something I can do and get wrong and change my mind later, rather than actually have to fill up with water and then drive around with it, because I can't drive the truck up to the tap in a campsite. We'll see though. This is the other locker that we've got. The fridge is going to be over the top there, so I'm wondering whether to either put a vent here or just have it such that we open this to get air for it to run. I suspect it's going to have a vent over it, because putting a vent there behind the cross, which for a laugh I still have, means that even if the vent is here, when you bring this down you're going to cover it up anyway. So my plan is to use this door to have a vent on it. I've looked around inside, and because of needing air in, air out, it's really quite difficult to find somewhere else for it to go. But the vent out is going to be here or here. I'll have to measure it up and see. Basically, possibly slightly foolishly, I managed to, or was offered a really good fridge that was brand new, never been used, but just sat in somebody's garage because he was going to do a camper conversion and never did. And so I'm finding how to put that fridge in the back rather than find what I want and buy that instead. But you shouldn't look a gift horse in the mouth.